Oh yeah, let's do some streaming. Thanks for that shit. There we go. Music is back up. We are good to go. It's so loud. Is it too loud right now? Yeah, music looks too loud. Bump it. Alright guys, what is up here today? We're doing a little bit of a lore Q&A. What's up, Dr. Z? How are you? Is it... oh shit, it's still like bumping. Still too loud? It's weird. Not usually that goddamn loud. All right, guys, let's have some fun. I got plenty of lore questions to go through. Let's go through some shit. We actually don't have as many as we have had in previous videos. So, as always, what we'll do is we'll be doing the Warhammer 40,000 questions first. We'll answer those. We'll jump to a Q&A on Warhammer 40k. So if you have any Warhammer 40k questions, just wait until we get to this page, and you can ask them in the chat. If you ask questions in the chat while I'm answering, I probably won't see them. Make sure you mention my name so it highlights and I see it easier. Bram, thanks for subscribing. Then we've got a lot of fantasy questions. We got a lot of fantasy questions based off of dwarfs, no less. So we should have some fun with that as well. Then there's going to be a Q&A section for Warhammer Fantasy. I'd ran into some issues with this stuff. If I subscribe to the Patreon, will you buy a shirt? Stephen Carpenter, I live in Southern California. There's no reason for shirts here. I gotta buy a fucking shirt because you don't like see my shoulders. But we'll focus on all that. We'll see what we can get. I have to keep it under 2 hours, or else YouTube gets really weird with it. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of shirts, I might have some shirts that I'll be selling on my merch store, I guess, soon, which I guess I'm gonna start. Whatever. But I've got a bunch of ideas. We're gonna make those happen. I figure out what's up with the sound. It's like really loud. Alright, well, we'll just forge ahead. Alrighty, so let's take a look at our 40k questions here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So, Major Mula asked, it's not a lore question per se, but what are your feelings about the Necrons becoming suddenly like Tomb Kings in lore with dynasties and whatnot? I think a lot of people don't like that. I think a lot of people were pretty upset with the move to make Necrons a little bit more like the Tomb Kings. But I ultimately feel like it was not a bad move. Necrons had kind of like some dynasties to begin with. They always kind of had that Tomb King feel to them, that Tomb King vibe. For those people who don't know, let me get up the Necron Codex. Where is it? Oh, Codex is. There we go. So, if I scroll on down and get to the dynasties, here we go. So they added the Necron dynasties like in 7th and 8th edition, I think it was. So with this, you get a bunch of different dynasties of a bunch of different, essentially the Tomb Kings that are in control of each one of these dynasties. And the Necrons are pretty much asleep throughout the entirety of the galaxy. They're in hibernation, and they're waking up slower and slower, and coming more and more to life. So around the 7th and 8th, they added these guys as this kind of dynasty format, and I I think it adds like a really good touch to it. I think it makes it, I think it feels a little bit more succinct, a little bit like a directional narrative. The Necrons of like the earlier editions were very boring. It's like, oh, they were here during the war in heaven and there was all this shit, and it's like, but outside of that, they felt very nameless. They felt like they were lacking a certain amount of personality. So I feel like this kind of gives them a little bit more of a personality. They're already using the kind of sci-fi undead Egyptian trope anyway, so might as well just go the full ham with it, or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, if you want to ask me questions, do this. But wait until I get to the portion that says that respective field, either Warhammer 40,000 or Fantasy, and then ask your question, or else I won't see it. Okay, so jumping over to Lolix875 asked, or Lolix asked, due to the news of the incoming sci-fi series settled in the Warhammer 40k, I really love a dedicated video about the main characters involved. The reason I didn't do a dedicated video on that is I actually did not read the Eisenhorn series. So I just didn't feel as equipped. I would have had to kind of really like scrub through a lot of Spark notes and really not deliver an awesome video on it, that I would have to do a lot more research. So I could do a video on Eisenhorn easily, but I just need to really sit down and learn the character a lot. For me, if you're just getting into 40k, Eisenhorn is a good place to start, or Caiaphas Cain, or any of like the Inquisitor type novels. There's a trilogy of novels, Draco, something like that. It's an Inquisitor. It's got 1,000 Suns on one of the cover. It's got 3 different covers because it's 3 different books. But those are those books, all inquisitorial books, paint a really great idea of what it's like to be just a citizen in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Just how, in the same way that any of the Gotrek and Felix books by William King are a really great way to see, okay, what's it like to just be a citizen in the world of whatever portion of the fantasy world. That they paint a really grim and good picture of what those worlds are respectively like. I had already a really good idea of what that was like, and so it didn't really interest me, so I never got into Eisenhorn. As a whole, I don't like the Inquisition. They're really fucking annoying because, like I've said, from like a narrative standpoint, it's like, oh, things are going well, stamp Inquisition's here, uh-oh, gonna have to burn everything. Like, it gets just a little too much for me. Does Felix die at the end? I don't know, Oathstoned. This isn't about spoilers. Oh, it's that thing. Okay, Gorvar asks, Warhammer 40k. Yes, 2 questions. This is his 40k question. Do you believe the squats will ever become a unit in the Imperial Guard like the Ratlings or Ogrins? That's a really good question, because we know that the Ratlings and the Ogrins are an offshoot of humans as a result of the Dark Age of technology ending. And squats are, again, another kind of byproduct of that. High gravity environments made for squats. Kind of interesting enough, right? But we already see squats returning. Let's take a look here. They're already in the I don't know why they did this. Hey, we re-released shitty models and bad stances. If we go to Blackstone Fortress, Blackstoner Fortress, bro. I got him so high. Where's that squat? Where's that fucking squat? There, these guys are squats. So we're starting to see squats come back. This is an Iron Man, which is in the old lore about the Dark Age of technology and why the Dark Age of technology ended. So we're starting to see vestiges of these things that were scantily mentioned in really distant parts of the lore. So it begs the question, like, okay, are we going to start seeing these things advance more in the Warhammer 40k narrative? Are we going to see them come back into things? I'm not really sure. Actually, no, these are Ratlings, I think. Yeah, because they have hairy feet. My bad. I heard that they brought squats back. Let me see. Yeah, these are definitely Ratlings. Because Ratlings are like halflings, and squats are like dwarfs. But my bad. I forgot. For some reason, I thought they had a new squat model. Warhammer squats. I could have swore I saw a Warhammer squat model. Nope, I think it was just the Ratling one, and I thought it was a squat model. But either way, here's a squat done for you. But either way, it does beg the question if we will start to see more and more and more of these guys coming back into the fold of the lore, because they're highly like memed out, and people are like, "Oh, I'm fucking add the squats back in." And I think Games Workshop at one point will be like, "You're gonna buy it? Fine, we'll add it. We'll add it." Hey, what's up, Daphos? How are you, man? Spot models are Necromunda. That's it. Yeah, I knew I saw some squat models somewhere. The gang. New model's actually pretty sick too. I like the Goliathus a lot. Oh, what's up, brother Desilmir? How are you doing, dude? Oh, there's the gangs. The Carrion Queens, the Sump Dogs, the Nexus 9s, Brother Bones, Silent Ones, the Iron Lord. Did I already pass them? I can't remember where they are. What? Oh, they're hired guns. Okay, so I guess it there. Aha! That's the squat model I was looking for. There you go. That's a squatty poo. All right, back to the question. What is your favorite Titan in Warhammer 40k? Asked by Hardcase. I don't know if you're asking class, in which case is an Imperator class Titan. Those guys are fucking sick. My favorite one is probably Storm Herald from the Battle of Hell's Reach in the Armageddon book by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. He has a really good bunch of conversations and dialogue between Grimaldus and the Princeps of Storm Herald, which are, it's so epic. I fucking love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I think the majority of Titans in the Black Library literature are actually kind of boring. They're actually very, like, oh, I made the murder kill. It's an engine kill. Like, okay, I mean, you need to calm down with, like, the hyphenated words. Like, what I really enjoyed about Storm Herald was it was, like, straight shooting conversation between Grimaldus and the Princeps. Both had their own objectives, and they had their own clear character arcs. Every time you typically see a Titan in Black Library, it's like, here's this Princeps, which has, like, every time there's a Titan and they introduce the Princeps, that is going to be something that gets fucked up. The Titan is going to be something that causes a huge twist to happen. It happens in the Master of Mankind. There's tons of situations where, oh, they've introduced this named Princeps of this named Titan. That's going to come back around to haunt the antagonist. I know it, or protagonist. Hold your questions, guys, until we get to those regions. I'm seeing a lot of questions being asked that I can't get to them just yet. When will you continue your wonderful Primarch series? Deep asks. As soon as I finish the book for Conrad Kurz. Will we see a video about the beginning of the Inquisition and a possible future of it? I think I would be more interested in doing a possible future of it video, which would probably include like a preface to do the initial onset of the Inquisition and how it got started with the Imperial Creed and the Ecclesiarchy and everything like that. I just, like I said before, the Inquisition really annoys me, especially when you get into stuff like the Age of Apostasy, or apostasy is right, it just sounded really funky. And Doge Van Dyer, and that guy, Douche Van Dyer, is just like, it's really kind of convoluted. At the same time, it's really annoying because it's, like I said, it's, oh, you want to do this thing that is clearly in the best interest of the Imperium. Like, you take a look at the Celestinian Crusade back to Ultramar to resurrect Roboute Guilliman. Inquisitor Greyfax was like, this is heresy. I just want you guys to know ahead of time, and I'm going to kill you if this doesn't work out right. Like, she was too Puritan for me, and the Puritan Inquisition really annoys me. Hugh Gedney asked, this is a 40k question, how many demons at that the Chaos Gods have in the warp. That is not countable. There is like a demon for the very first murder of the world, and of all the human race. Like, there's a demon for everything, pretty much. Like, there are no set number of demons. Hard Lettle Tits Greco Raggy 22 or Raggy what the fuck asked, can a follower of Khorne be infected by a follower of Nurgle, or is it like a dib sort of system when no other demon lord can fuck with someone already demon claimed? It's not demon claimed per se, it's that individual's choice. So take Abaddon for example. Abaddon is instilled with the power of all 4 of the ruinous powers because they keep trying to coax him. They're like, hey, here's a little bit of fucking power. Why don't you come to our side? And he's like, no, give me more. And it's until he makes a decision to choose one of those 4 gods is when the other 3 will fuck off. So basically, if there's a follower of Khorne, he can be infected by a Nurgle plague, sure, in like a not a good way, but he can't be like, oh, I follow Khorne and Nurgle. It's you're devoting yourself to that god. I'm sure there are instances in Black Library where that has happened, but for the most part, it's you make the decision to choose to follow a god. The other gods will say, okay, well, you're no longer worthwhile to me because your stock, your faith, has already been cheated. It's already been divvied out to another god. No problem, Chris Pilkington. How you doing, man, Pilkington? And what's up, Hydrak? Crumpets Panda asked, do you think that there should be more Dreadnoughts as independent characters in Warhammer 40k a la Bjorn? Would you like to see any notable independent characters become Dreadnought? I think yes and no. The big deal is that with... Still really loud? Bring that down even more. My desktop audio is like bumping right now for some reason. Like the right. Oh, fine. Fucking crazy. I think the problem with independent character Dreadnoughts is that I would assume, like you're saying, would you like to see any notable independent characters become Dreadnoughts? So you're asking me, are there any Space Marine heroes you'd like me to see die? Basically. Kind of. I think it'd be cool to see more independent character Dreadnoughts, yes. But I would hate to see someone like Dante or even Calgar become an independent character Dreadnought. I feel like their character has such a huge role that they would have to add an independent character Dreadnought that is outside of the already established mythos. Or Tycho the Lost. I could see Tycho the Lost becoming a independent character Death Company Dreadnought. That would be really, really cool. Now to add a lot of flavor to that Blood Angels portion, because Tycho the Lost is such a loser. Like it's shitty to see him in like the characters list. Like no one uses him. Get rid of him. He's got an old model, or Brother Corbulo, something like that. Like put the old models that are not really integral to the lore of anything and phase them out. Make them Dreadnoughts if you want to. But I think like people like Azrael or Logan Grimnar, again, Marnius Calgar or Dante, I would struggle to see them as Dreadnoughts because their characters are so strong and important to the overall arc of the army list, how they're used in competitive, and the lore. Okay, so let's jump on over to Warhammer 40k questions. Go ahead and ask away. If you did ask them already, please ask again because I probably missed it. Let me bring that up. The Lizard Viking said, not a lore question per se, but if you could push Primaris Marine lore in any direction, what would you like to see happen? I'd like to see the Primaris naming convention not be shit. That's for one. Like, there's the Intercessors, the Aggressors, the Eliminators, the Inceptors, I already said Intercessors. Did I say the Eliminators? Yeah, and then there's all these different iterations ending in OR. Like, that is just too much. No, Dacklemore. Abaddon should not kill Dante. Get away from me with that. Chaos Primaris Marines when? I don't think so. But then again, it's one of those best laid plans thing. Like Belisar's call says that they are immune to chaos corruption, but what's to say that they can't just go, okay, well, we're not corrupted, but we're going to be renegades because we don't agree with what you're saying and what you're doing. How many artifacts of Vulcan have the Salamanders recovered to have Vulcan return? I think they've only recovered 2 or 3. Let me check. Artifacts of Vulcan. I believe it's like 1 or 2 or 3. Alright, so the recovered artifacts are the Chalice of Fire, the Eye of Vulcan, Spear of Vulcan, Kisar's Mantle, and the Gauntlets of the Forge. The unrecovered ones are Engine of Woes, Obsidian Chariot, Song of Entropy, and Unbound Flame. And then the destroyed ones are Vermilion Sphere, Light of Unmaking, Igneous Hammer, and the Anvil of Desolation. So they have 5. They've got 4 more to go, and 4 are destroyed. It's a total of what, 12 it says? Oh, this is 13. The 9, it's 9. So I guess the ones that were destroyed are not the ones that were, I guess, important. Oh, the Chalice of Fire. I didn't read that book. Oh, yeah, so about half. Yeah, so Chris Pilkington, yes, about half are claimed. Let me scroll up here. Do you think it would have been better if Chaos had taken Vigilus? It would have been better to see Dante show up, I think. I think that Vigilus kind of like was this big built-up scenario, and then nothing really happened. It's like they're talking about forwarding the narrative of 40k, and you build this huge story with all these characters trying to come over to Vigilus and have this be this big deal, and then it suffers from the same exact Deus Ex Machina, Robbie Gilliman, just coming in out of nowhere that has happened in the Plague Wars, in the Desolation of Baal. It's just been the same thing over and over and over. It's like, choose a planet that Bobby G can't make it to. Like, give us an actual stakes. It's like when you're watching, and this is a personal gripe, when you watch a Marvel movie, and I love all the Marvel movies, so this is aside to that. When you watch a Marvel movie and the superhero breaks that third wall to kind of have like a, hey, I realize that I'm in a ridiculous situation. For an example, Age of Ultron, when Hawkeye is like, hey, I'm a guy out here with a bow and arrow. Like, you can do it. Like, okay, now you don't take this situation seriously. So why should I, as the viewer, take it seriously? You've just broken my suspension of disbelief. It's the same thing with Vigilus. Like, okay, if every single conflict is just going to have Bobby G show up, don't have the conflict. Like, you're not going to change any characters because no one died in Vigilus Ablaze. Marnius got his heart exploded, but he was fine. He ran the whole campaign from the Apothecarian. Like, create actual stakes and follow through with those stakes. That's what I think the 40k narrative needs. Do you think they will bring Sanguinius back by making the Sanguinor possess Dante? I don't know. That's a big kind of rumor that's floating around, that EVGA will help out with that, and she'll have the Sanguinor do some shit to possess Dante, and then use the Inari's ability to summon back like corpses and stuff basically from the dead. I hope they don't bring back Sanguinius. As much as I would love to see him back, I think it kind of defeats the purpose of his ultimate sacrifice if he came back. Would Primaris armor be superior or inferior to Terminator armor? All intents and purposes, Primaris armor, I would say, from a tactical standpoint, is superior because it's modular. When you look at Reaver armor, Intercessor armor, Gravis armor, sorry, it's Phobos, Gravis, and like the standard edition. It's all the same undersuit. They just put different pieces onto it. But I think from that standpoint, that's really cool. So we could probably see Primaris Terminator variants. Gravis armor probably is the closest to Terminator armor we'll see for Primaris, but I'm curious to see if they're going to add another one. We're supposed to be getting another Space Marine drop, and people are going to think that people think there's going to be Primaris Terminators. Why is Abaddon not concerned about the Tyranids? I think he's less concerned about the Tyranids, more concerned about beating back the Imperium, and then once he wins over the Imperium, to use those resources to fight the Tyranids. And also, they don't deal with the Tyranids in the warp, so to them it's like, ah, those are non-issues. It's enemy to my enemy type thing. Andrew Connor asks, super important lore question. Are we ever going to be getting an Emperor's Children Codex and Noise Marine release? I want to get the Chaos Battalion box, but holding out hopes for a dedicated release. You probably won't see a dedicated release like the Death Guard or the, what's it called? Coronate Demonkin. But if you think about it, the Death Guard just got updated models for Death Guard models. That didn't make sense, but still, they got upgraded Death Guard Marines. So if you were to buy the battalion box, you would be fine because they've upgraded the Noise Marines pretty frequently, or pretty recently, and they would just probably add more Slaaneshi models. So you would have to buy the models anyway, and you would need Chaos stuff to kind of fill the gaps of your army anyway. Who would be your choice to return next in terms of Primarchs? From a narrative standpoint, either Lionel Johnson or... I'd say Lionel Johnson, Leman Russ, or the Khan. They just make the most sense. I would love to see Sanguinius or... but he's dead. But I would love to see someone maybe even like Rogel Dorn, which has gone back and forth between actually being found dead and not being found dead. Or there's even Corvus Corax, but I think Lionel Johnson, we know, is okay now. He's recovered, he's fine, he's in the rock, he's chilling, he's in a smoking jacket going, look at all the chaos. Leman Russ, we know, is somewhere in the warp, and Khan, fuck all knows where he is. And I think that the Khan coming back would be really cool because he is the epitome of a wild card. His armor is colored white. And I think that it would be cool to see him come back because I don't think many people would expect him by comparison to Lionel Johnson. Lionel Johnson would be cool to come back, but I think that his stratagems and his abilities would cater more towards ranged combat. And we already get that with Gilliman. So I'd like to see the Khan come and give a more melee focus, or the same thing with Leman Russ. You know... Karn kills Lucius the Eternal. Will he transform into Lucius? I think in that case, they're both champions of their respective god, and they will not. I know, 40k lore is damn deep, Man of the Desert. You mentioned your favorite Primarch in the previous stream, but where do you place Angren? He's up there. I think Angren more recently has become a lot cooler, and a lot more tragic, and had a lot of better story behind him. I still think it's like Sanguinius, Conrad Kurz, Vulcan is really high up there, and Rogel Dorn I've recently liked a lot more. I would say that Angren is probably though in the top 5, if not top 10 at the very least. Approximately how loud do you yell brother, and how hard do you clasp forearms when you meet Turn in person? I usually screech and make a lot of weird moaning noises at Turn because I know it makes them laugh immediately. Like when we're doing Everchosen, like he'll be sitting next to me and we'll be about to go on, and I'll just be going like and I'm like, dude, stop. I'm gonna laugh as soon as it comes on. So if you ever watch Everchosen and you hear me just go, it's to make him laugh. What do you think the Terminus Decree is? Could it possibly be the location of an... I'm sorry, I don't know if my mic's picking me up over there. What do you think the Terminus Decree is? Could it possibly be the location of an operational standard template construct? Personally, I think it would be an awesome story. Jammin, I don't know what that is. What is that? Hydrak asked, is it possible for Grey Knights or Custodes to have Primaris Marine? Custodes, no. I would say they are superior to Primaris in every way, shape, or form. Grey Knights, yes, I think that they should, and I think that they did. They got their own. I believe there is a chapter of Grey Knights that is Primaris. I was talking about it in a video not too long ago. I can't remember the name of it. I'll keep looking it up, but it's a newly devised chapter that is like all Grey Knights. Is it possible Grey Knights? It would have been extremely poetic to have Dante killed by Abaddon, a callback to Horus and Sanguinius. Yeah, but that would just be annoying me. That's a rehashed idea. Like, it would be cooler if Dante kills Abaddon, because then it would be a reverse of Horus and Sanguinius. And what if that was the thing that ends the Black Rage? That would be fucking cool for me. Theorized Sanguinors and others who died's souls are trapped in the vengeful spirit where crystal statues keep reforming when destroyed. Yes, Chris Pilkington, I've heard that one as well. That Sanguinius' soul is technically trapped inside the vengeful spirit, but that is not... And this might change with how the Siege in Terra is going, but the old lore for it is that Horus and Sanguinius' souls are completely rended and destroyed. Horus completely annihilated Sanguinius' soul, and the same was said for the Emperor into Horus. That's what I've heard. Mainly the latter thing, that Emperor completely destroys Horus utterly. But we see Sanguinius' like vision show up in Desolation on Baal, so that might be kind of retconned in the more recent lore. Is the warp chaos planets consumable by Tyranids? So if the Tyranids manage to enter the warp, would it end up being an eternal conflict between chaos and Tyranids? No, Dracon, because for the most part, those planets aren't like real, or they're not based on like biological mass like they are outside of the world, or outside of the warp. Could Gilliman kill Abaddon? I think Gilliman could just fucking drop him. But then again, Abaddon is like infused with a bunch of like chaos foolery. All right, Luke Morris, have a good one, dude. Thank you very much for dropping in, brother. You need a PhD, or you need to have been fucking studying it for 20 years. Okay. Let's move on down. When we get to the fantasy Q&A section, feel free to ask 40k questions as well. Have at it, guys. But let's just kind of keep moving here. We're at about 45 minutes in, and I do have to keep this under 2 hours. I had like, when I tried to render the last one, it took me 2.5 days. So hopefully this will keep it under 2 hours. We'll be able to render it and put it up immediately. I'll answer this one real quick. Can Tyranids consume Chaos Marines, though? Yeah, because they're still biological, for the most part. Can Demon Primarchs be redeemed from corruption? I read in Sons of the Hydra of a word bearer caught by the Inquisition. The Inquisition subsequently rid him of corruption. Blurby, I don't really know Age of Sigmar too well. Are there any gods from Fantasy and 40k? Yeah, Kayla, Mensha, Kane, and also the entire Elf Pantheon. Okay, so to answer that question on the Demon Primarchs, so it depends. Like, Demon Primarchs, I don't think can be redeemed because they have chosen to be possessed. In Sons of Hydra, a word bearer caught by the Inquisition subsequently rid him of the corruption. You can like kind of do that. Like, it's got to be a choice. It's not just like, oh yeah, they're just fucking. This is just like herpes. You just clear this shit up and you're all good. You're gonna have a blowout every 4 or 5 months when you go to Vegas, and that's about it. Like, it's not like that. Like, if you are possessed, you can get the possession removed. Then you become a not an Illuminati, although those are in 40k. Oh, it's not a blank. There's a specific word for it in 40k for someone who's been possessed and pushed out the demon on their own. They then become immune to demon possession. And I can't remember the name of it. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, say it in chat for me, please. Draken, no, because they do not have any emotions to manipulate or be corrupted by. I think it is a blank. I can't remember the name of it. Okay, we'll move on to some fantasy questions now. But yeah, if you guys remember the name of what I'm thinking of, if you get possessed and you push the demon out, that's the Exorcists, but I'm not sure if they're still canon. Exorcists are canon. I'm pretty sure they are. But there is, like I was saying, there is a term in 40k for someone who personally expels a demon from themselves and they become immune to demon corruption. I would love to stream tabletop, Roman. Okay. Could you talk about the dwarf who made the rune fang? What else did he in the lore? What else he did in the lore, and are there more of his artifacts running around? And do the rune fangs have unique abilities in the lore? I think they have unique names and the same effects in tabletop, but how about in the lore? So the guy who made the rune fangs is Ulrich the Mad. He's a dwarf a little bit after the time of Sigmar, like after Sigmar unified. I'm sorry, a little bit after the time that Sigmar unified the Empire. He was definitely during the time of Sigmar. The High King at the time appointed Ulrich, the High Forge Master, whatever the fuck, Rune Forge Master, whatever, to make the rune fangs. And he made the rune fangs. He made 13, 14 of them, because he made one for Drakvald and made one for Soylent, which no longer have rune fangs. But he made them for those guys, and after that, he made the Nemesis Crown. The Nemesis Crown has his Master Rune of the Ages in it, and those are the three things that he did. Like, well, rune fangs, all of those. Then he did the Nemesis Crown, and then he made the Master Rune of Ages to put into the Nemesis Crown. And he had a problem with the Master Rune of Ages because it wouldn't fit in like any substance that he had, so he had to pretty much like find a whole bunch of mystical things to make it. He went on this little quest to make it. It made the Nemesis Crown. Then he realized that it like focused malice out of someone, and it made them pretty much an evil tyrant. So it's become like something that's like yakety sacks its way through all of the middle of the World's Edge Mountains. Like the orcs are trying to get it, the goblins are trying to get it, the dwarfs are trying to get it, fucking treasure hunters are trying to get it, all sorts of crazy crap like that. Do the rune fangs have any special abilities? Not like spitting fire, not like Sunfang or whatever it is, Tyrion's weapon before he picks up the Widowmaker. Not like that. Like that weapon can straight up shoot flames. Rune fangs can do a whole bunch of stuff. They do have unique names. I've got the list up here. It's Mother's Ruin for Averland. You guys have corrected me on how to pronounce Hawkland, because it's like Loch Ness. So Hawkland is Goblin Bane. Middenland is Legbiter. Nordland is Crowfeeder. Ostland is Brain Wounder. Not too original, Ostland. Ostermark is Troll Cleaver. Reichland is Dragon Tooth. Stirland is Orc Hewer. Telebeckland is Stonebreaker. Visenland is Bloodbringer. Soland is Grudge Settler. And Drakvald is Beast Slayer, which is ironic considering Drakvald Forest. 12 rune fangs in total. Pull that back up. Okay, good. Can you tell something about Cathay's lore and if it has any possibility of being in Warhammer 3? So you've got Cathay, Nippon, and Ind. Nippon is based off of Sengoku period Japan, basically. Ind is based off of I can't remember the specific dynasty, but India of antiquity, and Cathay is based off of ancient China, definitely like Warring States period. So, if you want to know what would it be like in Warhammer 3, go play Three Kingdoms. I mean, if I worked for Creative Assembly, and I wanted to pitch to Games Workshop, hey, I want to put Cathay in Warhammer 3. And they would say, okay, well, what's your basis? What can you say to convince us to put Cathay in Warhammer 3? I'd be like, well, here's this record-setting breaking game of ours that we've just released called Three Kingdoms. Have you heard of it? And I would just let them like run wild with that. Like, we clearly have all like the art direction in mind. We clearly have all the assets created. Let us just jump across and do that for Cathay. Do I think it's possible of it being in Warhammer 3? I don't. Games Workshop as a whole has taken a stance against overly stereotypical races, in the sense that I don't think we'll ever see Araby, Cathay, or Nippon because they are so... not a caricature, because Cathay and Nippon are not caricatures of ancient China and Japan, but Araby's kind of got like, okay, it's a flying carpet. It's the guy's name is Jafar. Is the guy who leads the grand invasion of Araby the grand invasion from Araby into Tilia and Astalia that starts the Great Crusade. So it's like, oh, kind of got some insensitive lore there for people that really do care about that. I personally don't give a shit, but I could see how a company would not want their face to be kind of thrown in with an older, more antiquated way of looking at things. I personally don't look at it as offensive, but some people do, and they are going to cater to that because in this timeline right now, like people are so sensitive about a lot of stuff, so they're going to err on the side of caution. 3K with Chinese demons and dragons. I mean, pretty much. Cathay culture is pretty cool. It's got a lot of like, when you watch movies like The Forbidden Kingdom with like the Imperial Emperor who slumbers for 3,000 years, it's the same thing, like the Jade Emperor and all that kind of stuff. It's very heavily ingrained. I am incredibly offended by Tilian lore. I didn't see a single fucking pizza in that Dogs of War book. Yeah, Jwali made up a really good point. Warhammer had pygmies in earlier editions. Back when it was like, people talk about like, oh, these are all racist in the United States. Let me tell you about the kings of racism. Imperialist Britain. Okay, so Blake Bailey asked, sorry if you've already gone over the War of the Beard, but can you talk more about who you think really started it? If the war was inevitable, even without Malekith framing the High Elves, and how the High Elves were the good guys in the war. I'm going to give you guys the non-biased opinion as someone who is a staunch High Elf fan and looks at it as the War of the Beard and not the War of Vengeance. The High Elves did not start it. What's his name? Malekith definitely started it. Would it have happened if Malekith hadn't intervened? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would not have happened at all, I don't think. The only reason there was a hostility is because there was multiple raids. Like, it wasn't just like, hey, here's a one-off, like, oh, okay, bygones be bygones. It was multiple raids. Many, many, many of the trade caravans of the dwarfs were attacked by Dark Elves and then had the High Elf armor placed there instead. So, I think that because it happened so many times, and then I think that because the dwarfs were like, hey, what's going on here? And the High Elves reacted like assholes. That's what's like, that was the last straw. It wasn't like, okay, you know what? 5 or 6 of our caravans have been raided. Let's go to war. It was like 5 or 6 have been raided. Let's see what's going on. And we demand, recompense. And as a result, the fucking High Elf, I hate that High Elf king, was like, no, shave his beard and send him back to the dwarves. Like, fuck off, man, you Ponzi hairdresser. Like, that's the reason. Like, the High Elves are not the bad guys, and nor are the dwarfs. Like, no one is at fault in that war because they both are not the reason for that war. But the High Elves definitely instigated it more, so. The dwarfs were reactive the entire time, I guess is probably a better way to look at it. I've given my hand on who I think started it, lol, but I believe that the general xenophobia and stubbornness of the stunties compiled with the how Queen Helgar basically ruined elf-dwarf relations with betraying Adarth, Eldroth, and Lilthon in the Grudge of Drong made it to where the High Kings was so fed up with the dwarfs that he'd rather shave the ambassador than look into who really attacked the dwarfs and the relations between the elves and dwarfs, retreating so quickly that they were going to find a relation to war anyway. Also, can you go into why humans seem to look more favorably on dwarfs than elves? It was the elves who allowed them to master magic, and Teclis establishing their colleges gave them a fighting chance against chaos. Thanks. Well, Blake, to answer the second part of your question, the dwarfs and the elves, dwarfs and humans go way back. Sigmar helped out the dwarfs, and they've always had a close relationship. Dwarfs taught the humans how to metalwork. They taught them their Reichspiel is derivative of Khazalid, the language of the dwarfs. So they have a lot more in common. I mean, you look at the traditions and tropes of dwarfs. It's very Nordic based, right? And look at the Empire or the old world of humans, right? That is all very Germanic. So it's all very heavily influenced and looks very heavily influenced, right? Hence, Germanic, Nordic. Now, when you take a look at Bretonnia, Bretonnia was still influenced by dwarfs. They taught them how to metalwork, how to make armor. They traded with them and everything like that. Elves are a relatively new kind of convention for humans. Elves have always been more of had more closed border policy. You know, they've meddled less with the new races than the dwarfs have. The dwarfs are planted right there next to the humans. Elves, meh. The wood elves are there, but for the most part, no one bothers or talks to the wood elves. The high elves only did it because Teclis knew that if he equips the humans, a bigger, larger, and a race that's going to outlast them, can act as a bastion against chaos, essentially absorbing the onslaught of them. The elves only taught humans magic after the Great Chaos Incursion? Great War of Chaos. And that's like... that's during Magnus the Pius's reign, and that's like, I don't know, not that much further back from our current timeline. I think it's like 50, 60? I can't remember. Magnus the Pius and Karl Franz are not too far removed. Actually, might even be like 200 or 300. I can't remember. But still, the College of Magic is all a very new convention for the elf-human relationship. What races were on the Warhammer Fantasy world before the arrival of the old ones, and how many of those races are still left? Thanks for all the great content. Cheers. Jared, thank you, brother. So, the old ones pretty much created anything that isn't reptilian. The snake people of Harmash, whatever the fuck they're called. Those were there to begin with. Dragon ogres in general. I'm sorry, not dragon ogres. Dragon ogres, dragons, the sleepers, dinosaurs, pretty much anything reptilian, Famir included, has been here before the old ones. The old ones created things that are not scaly for the most part. The man in the desert is correct. The man in the desert said the old gods turned out to be the survivors of the previous world's end times. At the end of the new end times, the old gods simply find successors as the new world. Yeah, you know, so when you watch The Matrix, it's the exact same underlying storyline. Where the previous old one sets up the new Zion and then goes and saves like 12 people and is like, alright, you guys start Zion. Don't talk about anything else that you saw here. Alright. What races were on the Warhammer Fantasy world? I already answered that. Lolix asked, I would love to know how the dwarfs arrived to the spine of the world mountains in Lustria, and what drove the separation between dwarves and chaos dwarf. Nothing drove the separation between them. They didn't have like a lover spat. The chaos dwarf, Paragon, Prime, Deity, Hashut, is actually a chaos demon, a greater chaos demon that kind of eventually corrupted the chaos dwarves. I remember there was something about them getting like trapped or something in their posilids or whatever, and that resulted in them slowly becoming corrupt by Hashut, and eventually they all worshipped Hashut. And there was a war to kind of purify all the current chaos dwarfs and the dwarfs that wanted to stay non-chaos dwarfs. But for the most part, there wasn't an actual event between the two. It was them getting cut off from the other dwarfs, them fucking turn, I just saw it. It's them pretty much getting cut off from the dwarfs and then being influenced and worshipping Hashut. Has Brian answered my question? If not, when will he finally play 40k with Turin, his friend? I don't know. Maybe never, Nick. Nick's coming over tomorrow because I've got my new standing desk, what I'm standing at, and he's gonna come see it. He keeps asking me, he's like, when are we gonna play? I'm like, I have to paint my arm, and he goes, yeah, it sucks to be you. And he leaves me in the middle of the night. What do you mean, like, dodging him? I've played like 5 games with Turn. I've lost all of them. You guys always just... You guys fall in line with Turn. Turn abuses me. Master Westy asked Croxagores. Now, my memory may be off, but I remember reading the Beastmen Army book, 6th edition, and they could take Croxagores as a special unit. I can't... Yeah, Misha, I lost all of them. Nick plays a lot of 40k. I have pretty much just the same list over and over and over. Nick has adapted quite a few lists. He's very into the competitive circuit called the ITC. I can't remember if Croxagores were in the 6th edition book. I don't think I have a 6th edition book on me. I have it at home, but I don't have it here. Did I try to cheat? It helps? No. Beasts of Chaos, 6th edition. This was when I played them. Because back in 6th edition, it was Demons of Chaos, Warriors of Chaos, and Beasts of Chaos. Then in 7th edition, they made Hordes of Chaos. No, my army's fine. I don't play a lot, so I don't have a ton of knowledge. Yeah, I don't think Croxagores are on this list. I know what you're saying. Like there were instances in 6th edition where you could take cross-army choices as part of like weird scenarios. And I don't remember that being the case for Beastmen at all. No, I don't need a fucking virtual reality release of this fucking game. If there was a virtual reality release of this game, and Nick would be like, oh, let's play a head-to-head, and he'd fucking piss me off by beating me in a head-to-head, and I'd be in a virtual reality environment punching my closet door because Turin's being a goof-ass with fucking chariots. Fuck that. But other than that, yeah, probably pretty fun. Yeah, I don't see anything about Croxagores. This was a pretty convoluted time in the series. See stuff like this where it says Minotaurs count as core unit choice if your general is a Doom Bull. There's a lot of stuff like that. Like if you had like a Mark of Chaos Demon, I'm sorry, Mark of Khorne Demon, Mark of Khorne Chaos Lord, then you could choose Mark of Khorne, like Khorne Berserkers as a troop choice in 40k. A bunch of different stuff. Okay. So, Master Westy, your memory is incorrect on that one, unfortunately, brother. Gorvar Haggardson asked, again, hey man, thanks for the good content over the years. Really appreciate your dry humor with the lore. Hey man, no problem. I got 2 dwarf questions for you. He asked a 40k question earlier that we answered. Fantasy, in the Doom of Dragonback, the main characters barely managed to flee from Ekrund from the Greenskins and have settled down somewhere in the epilogue, but it's not quite stated where. It's not Barak Var, and it's implied Haldora, a female Dawi, is in charge of the settlement. Do you have any clue where they might have settled down? I do not. I did not read the Doom of Dragonback, but Google is a powerful thing. Let me see here. Let me see here. Haldor Twinfang. No. Haldora. No, I can't. I don't see. I figured I'd be able to find Haldora. Doom of Dragonback. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the book itself. Yeah, I can't find anything for you, brother. I'm sorry. I have failed for the time. Yeah, very rarely will I say, let me Google it, but specific literature, like Black Library things, I will know less of than I will general lore about stuff. Because it's mainly fantasy books. I've read less fantasy books than 40k books. Oh yeah, guys, if I worked in IT long enough that if you get a support ticket that goes in, it's like, that's interesting. Let me Google that. What are the good, bad, or Chris or Charles Winters asked, what's the good and bad parts about the end times? Good part is that it added some cool models. Morghasts are really fucking cool here. Look at a Morghast. Like, these are awesome looking models. Like, I really, really dig these guys. They added these with the first book with Nagash. And like I've said so many times, Nagash set like a really cool pace. Everyone was like, all right, all right. Bretonnia kind of got its asshole kicked in, but really like what's going on here. Tomb Kings kind of got their asses handed to them, but maybe we'll see some fun stuff. Like, we saw Tomb King's vampire counts combined to Undead Legion. That was kind of cool. It was very drastic and it was huge and sweeping, but it was pretty interesting to see it all wrapped into one book yet again, like it used to be way back in the day. But the bad thing is that pretty much everything after the book Nagash, after that, it just goes off the rails. The story just retcons itself in the middle of the story. They added a very limited amount of models. All the large models are very, very, very cool. Like, End Times is what gave us the new Nagash model. This bad boy. We get all the, what are they called? Well, not Morghasts, Morgul. No, not Morgul. Oh, Vlad Von. Damn it, what is it? What's the name of those fucking... Ah, haha, haha! These bad boys. That all these really cool mounts. Like, Mortarks, that's it, Mortark. Yeah, so all these came out, and these were really sick. Like, there was a lot of really cool stuff that did come with End Times. But, unfortunately, they blew up the world. They destroyed the lore. But they didn't just destroy the lore. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna have this epic last stand, and then boom, world explodes. Like, oh man, what a send-off. It was like, let's keep taking these beloved characters and bending them over, and bending them over, and bending them over. Like, Belagar and all of the elves. All of the elf shit is extremely annoying. I will probably do an End Times video on the elves the day before I shut my channel down. Like the End Time stuff for the yeah, Dacklemore, I got it. The End Time stuff for the elves is super frustrating. Because like I said, it retcons itself in the middle. Tyrion goes from being the bad guy to the good guy to the bad guy to the good guy. And then Malekith, Tyrion, and Teclis at the very end are like, I think we're okay, right? Yeah, I think we're okay. And then like Alith and Ar is like, I'll fucking cut you, man, if you fuck up. Like, it's so weird and convoluted. And even reading it, you're like, there are parts where you're reading the book. I don't have the book here. I have all the books here. You're reading it and you just go like, I gotta put this down for a second because this is stupid. Someone read this in the Games Workshop office and went, yeah, that's pretty goddamn good. Print it. Like, or people in Games Workshop's office were like, you know what? Let's just get it over with. Just drown everything. Round elves, watch yourselves. But yeah, it's been... There are, like I said, there are good things about the End Times. It did forward the progression of the game. I don't think that we needed an End Times level event to get what we have with Age of Sigmar. 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy is the best iteration of Warhammer Fantasy rules ever. It was very clean, it was very straightforward, it was extremely easy to learn. 7th edition, because it was 8th edition Fantasy and 7th edition 40k were out at the same time. 7th edition 40k was so convoluted. You had pinning tests, you had order of operations basically on who shot what. You couldn't split fire things, which wouldn't make any goddamn sense. Then you would have to decide, okay, if you're shooting on a model that it has armor, okay, you're shooting on the front, okay, does it have an open top? Like, there are all these things you had to consider anytime you fucking did anything in that game. So 8th edition 40k is great. And I wish they had just done a 9th edition fantasy that was like that. Put everything on round bases if you have such a big hard-on for that. Downgrade the number size of all the included units. And do what you did like you did with the Eldar. Okay, Eldar, well, we can't really make this, we can't copyright this word. Well, Eldari. Uh-oh, these elves, which actually already have, which is their new word in fucking, in Age of Sigmar. It's like, you already have that mechanic going on. And I've said this before. Age of Sigmar will always be the guinea pig to 40k. Anything that they want to incorporate into 40k, you'll see it in Age of Sigmar first. We're going to blow the world up and drastically change everything. Ooh, people did not like that. Okay, let's not do that with 40k. Okay, we're going to add circular bases because that works in 40k. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to add battle prayers to a lot of different units. Let's see how that works. Ooh, people like it. Boom, now it's in 40k with the new Dark Apostles. Okay, we're going to add permanent terrain pieces that you actually have to include in your army list as part of your army. Oh, it's super well received in Age of Sigmar. Boom, now it's in Vigilus Ablaze. You get that with Chaos. So they pretty much just move it across as the formula makes sense. And it's kind of frustrating that that's the case, because Age of Sigmar is starting to get a lot better with its lore. So I can really, I'm slowly warming up more and more and more to it. I want to collect an army of it. Like, hold please. About that. It's right there. I bought it on eBay because Games Workshop was raising the price on all of these things. And make sure it's actually in the shot. There we go. So this includes quite a lot of models. And I bought it off eBay for 70 bucks. And on Games Workshop site, it was like 100. But now it's something like 120, 130. So I bought it. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. I can sell it again if I want because it's not opened yet. So I figure if I'm going to do it, that's like 1,500, 1,800 points of Sigmarines. So I'm between that or Khorne, because the Demonkin or Khorne or whatever the hell are so sick looking, so sick. Really, what's going to happen is if they release Tyrion Sun Elves and I like them, I'll do those instead of this. If I don't like them, then I'll probably just do this because they're easy to paint. It's just gold with a different color on top of it at one point. Like it's pretty straightforward. What new dwarf remake would you add to make them more lore friendly? Personally, I would give hammerers, shields, and guardians to make them better. I meant like rework in terms of new playstyle other than just the onion. I'll be honest with you, I don't mind how the dwarfs play. The dwarfs play very similar to tabletop in a way that I really like. I guess that's a big thing when you think about people like myself, Lore Master of Sotek, Janet on occasion, Gabo. Gabo played tabletop. When you think of characters who actually played the tabletop and now who play Total War Warhammer, it's fun to take a look at the juxtaposition between the tabletop way to play an army and the way it plays in the game. And honestly, they did a pretty good job with almost all of the factions. Like High Elves play the way High Elves played on tabletop. They were very complex. You had to have a lot of moving parts. You had to understand when to engage things and when not to engage things. Your spearmen were always your most cost-effective and strongest troops because you could run huge portions of them. And Illyrian Reavers were capital. They were very strong fast cav in tabletop, and they're extremely strong in Total War Warhammer. By that same cut, though, when you look at dwarfs play exactly how they did in tabletop. Although I will say in Total War, because of the fact that you have so much room around you in the battlefield, you do have to make that onion. But in tabletop, you just had your front line. You couldn't really get into the back line of things the way you can in Total War Warhammer. But that's probably the biggest distinction, is that you have so much on the left and right sides of your army that you have to make an onion almost with every single faction. Like when you think of stuff like vampires, where you don't have to worry about a backline as much, you still need to take a board presence or else you'll get surrounded. Yeah, I don't remember hammers really having shields. Okay, so Raz Crunk asked, what is the strongest unit in Warhammer Fantasy that is on par with an average Ultramarine in 40k? I kept this question here. I thought it was a joke at first. Nothing. There is nothing in the fantasy world that I can think of that would go toe-to-toe with any Marine. Ultramarine, Space Wolf, Blood Angel. Because it's like, when you think of... Okay, when you think of... maybe Croak, right? Because Croak can separate planets, or can separate... because he's the first spawning, and the first spawning of Slann could move planets. But you think of maybe Nagash too, because he becomes like the Lord of... the Incarnate of Death. The Wind of Death, Shaiish. But when you think of stuff like, oh, you know, this Teclis is such a strong mage, he could probably, like, crush him. Like, well... When you think about Ceramite and Adamantium and how it's super fucking strong, and there's nothing in the Warhammer fantasy world aside from maybe Gromroll, which is the closest substance I'd say to Ceramite. Good luck crushing it, buddy. I could picture a Space Marine surviving a planet, getting a planet tossed at him though. Misha, no you can't. Come on. Come on, Misha. Grail Knights are supposed to be Fantasy Warhammer's Space Marines. I'd say Grail Knights are closer to Grey Knights. But then it's splitting the hairs, and they're both Space Marines. I guess that's a better comparison, but still, I don't think it's comparable still. Teclis could probably just crush him from inside of his armor. Well, let's assume the Space Marine just sits there and takes it. Which no servant of the Emperor would, brother. I'm going to restart the Gladius soundtrack because I know that doesn't get me demonetized. Alright, and our last question by Cube is, in the end times, did Morathi use magic to ensure the loyalty of some of Tyrion's forces by making them a bit more blind to his clear change in attitude? I don't remember if she explicitly, like, says, like, don't worry, distant nephew, I got this. I think that she does do some stuff to basically glamour people like that, like, but I don't think it's a direct, like, aha, I've done it. Like, I don't think there's anything exactly like that. To answer your question, Cube. All right, Warhammer Fantasy Q&A, but this is open to anything. How much time we got left? We got a good 45 minutes, so I'll give you guys about a 45 minutes to a half hour of just questions. Ask away, mention my name so I can see it, and then I'll just work my way down the list here. Go up here. Okay, do crossover DLC will be the next thing for Warhammer 2. We need Grom, surely. In my opinion, I think they need to do Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 races. And I think the whole no DLC for DLC thing, fuck off that. I'll pay fucking $10 for a Wood Elf versus Beastman DLC. I don't care. I'll do it. Like, I understand that they're trying not to say, like, we don't want to, like, take money from people. Wait, my point. We don't want you to spend money to have to spend money. But you already do that for the game itself, right? Like, you've already bought the game. If there's DLC for DLC, like, who gives a shit at that point? Like, you don't have to have the Beastmen DLC to play Beastmen in Warhammer 2. You just have to have had Warhammer 1, I believe, to play Mortal Empires. Unless they change that. So, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. One sec. What happened to the Skaven during the time of Fantasy in 40k? What do you mean, Quan? There's no Skaven in 40k. There's Skaven in Fantasy. They're in Age of Sigmar. They just had a big release not too long ago. If the Chaos Gods are in both 40k and Fantasy, then they obviously are on the same planet, just different times. One past, one future. What? Doesn't make any goddamn sense. Chaos Gods are gods. They are not on a planet. Are there any settlements in the Darklands that they will go to Vampire Coast and Total War Warhammer 3? No, but I think that the Vampire Coast could be on any one of the islands outside of it. Dragon Island, for example. Or Lizard Island, I think it is. You could even have Dark Elf starting there. Compass Panda. What race do you... Hey, what's up, man? What race do you think it is missing the most crucial characters or characters in Total War Warhammer 2? What characters are the ones you have in mind? Well, you guys know how much I miss Eltharion. I think he needs to be in the game. Because it gives access to Griffins for High Elves, and I think that's huge. I think Empire needs more of its characters, like Kurt Helborg, Marcus Wolfhart, and the such. I think the Dwarfs need more of their casting characters, like Thoric Ironbrow. And I'd love to see Bugmans. I think Bugmans would be really cool as like a ranged legendary lord. Who else? Did that really pop up? What other characters? What other characters? Greenskins... I think the Wood Elves need more love. They just have fucking... Drachnian... Not Drachnian. I was going to say they should get Drachnian and Eraloth. The Twilight Sisters I think would be really cool, but I think from a modeling standpoint they wouldn't be able to do. Bretonia is pretty solid. They didn't really have a lot of special characters. They had a bunch of named characters, and that's it. Dark Elves need Malice Darkblade. Skaven need Thankful, hands down. Throth the Unclean I could pass. I could not have Throth and be totally fine. Okay. Who will be the some old friends teased in the FLC array? I'm not sure, Shagrat. I think the biggest rumor that I really like and I'm subscribing to the most is Gotrek and Felix. They did have rules in a White Dwarf, so I'm going to subscribe to that. I think that's probably the most fun. The term you were looking for regarding the possession of immune people... Oh, so it was Illuminated, not Illuminati. Okay, I knew it was Illum something. Then I was wondering if Sotek could be an old one. Like an old one, like a 40k old one? I believe he is. All the Lizardman gods are old ones. What's the lord whose addition to Warhammer Total War you are least looking forward to? Yeah, I ended my sentence with a preposition. Deal with it. I think at this point, any more vampires, I would get upset. I think if like Abhorrash or Zacharias the Ever-Living were added, I could be alright with it, but I think any more vampires, I'm like, dude, just like lay off the vampires. We get it. You guys like them. And I know that the vampires play a pivotal role in a lot of the center points of the lore, but I'm just sick of them. I want something else. Well, I guess Grom the Paunch, because I just don't like greenskins. I'm trying to think of anything else other than that. Yeah, I can't think of many lords where I'd go like, oh fuck, are they really added this guy? Like, it's hard for me to really envision a lot of those. Which Eltharion story is canon? The one that he does not get captured, Kloba. They retconned that. 7th edition's Blind Eltharion is gone. Theories for Primaris Marines, Chaos, and other. What do you mean, Luke James? Help. What's the relation between Chaos, Elven, Human, Dwarf, and Skaven gods? It depends. So the Chaos Dwarves are their own things. The Skaven god, the Horned Rat, is actually considered to be really a greater demon. Now, actually, a fucking full-on god in the Pantheon. The human... the dwarf gods are all ancient dwarf ancestors. They were the very first dwarf leaders, basically. Grungi, Grimnir, and Valaya. And then the human gods are more a carryover from the old faith that would like pervaded the area before Sigmar united it all. And Sigmar himself is like, you know, their prime god is actually at one point was like the savior of humanity and reunited all of the old world. As far as the elven gods, we find out in the end times that they're all the elven pantheon in specific really is like all remnants of the world that was before the Warhammer world, and they went to kind of help influence and create their the people to take their places. So I don't really know how much I like that. A little late. What do you speculate the theme of the next DLC will be? Will we get Alice? I don't know. I think my biggest want is that the old world update is Empire. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm hoping for. As far as the races and lords, I couldn't tell you. Well, everyone's gotten covered now, so I think it's either going to be a Warhammer 1 and 2 race, 2 Warhammer 1. Well, that's stupid. I almost said all the fucking options it could be. I personally think it'd be a Warhammer 1 and 2 race, because there's plenty of stuff that can be done with 1 still, and I think there's only a couple things that can be done with 2, and I think that if they just do a bunch of Warhammer 2 DLCs over and over and over, they'll fill up quickly before Warhammer 3 comes out. So I think that it'll be a 1 and 2 race. Sifris, thank you very much, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, brother. The fantasy world is called Malice now. It was not before. Happens to be another planet with humans that look British. Pretty much. The Bretonians are actually more based off of like French stuff with Albion lore. Ancient Albion lore. How would Gotrek and Felix work in Total War Warhammer 2? I don't know. I would assume it would be kind of like a Green Knight summon, with some sort of like maybe you have to do a certain amount of quests or certain something to summon them. I would imagine they would come as a pair. I don't know if they would come as one unit or as 2 separate units. Like, I'm sorry, I think they'd be like legendary heroes, not lords. So I don't know if you get Gotrek and Phoenix 1 unit card, or Gotrek and Phoenix as 2 unit cards. Can you tell me the rules for Gotrek and Felix? I'll look them up in a second. There you go, Draken. Thank you very much, man. I'm going to release a mega unit for each army in Warhammer 2, a Nagash for accounts, and Incarnate Prawns for Empire, etc. No, I do not think so, because I think that the scope of Warhammer is already so large that it kind of fits that mega unit feel that you already get, that you didn't get on tabletop because they had downsized the scale for mass production, and by the time they got to end times, they could deal with the amount of money it would take to make a larger model. I think if Warhammer Fantasy was created, like, so let's say Age of Sigmar ended and Warhammer Fantasy started, I bet you dragons would be fucking way huge, and I bet you that dragon ogres, minotaurs would all be way bigger, more robust models. Like, when I think minotaur, I think like Dreadnought, as far as like a model scales. But when the actual tabletop, a Dreadnought is larger than a Minotaur. Like, Minotaurs for me, for everything I've read in like Minos or anything when it comes to Warhammer, like they're big motherfuckers. But I think that if they had done it now with more resources and more money, they'd be a larger scale model. Imagine if they... Dude, this is the best. Imagine if they added Tredge Craventail over the dozens of other amazing Skaven lords. Any good novels in the Skaven ItalianSpartacus? Read the Skaven Slayer book. Read all of the Gotrek and Felix books, because Thankful is like the underlying nemesis throughout all of them. And Slaanesh beat the shit out of the other 4 in Age of Sigmar. No, because he's too busy like stroking his 3rd nipple on his 5th breast. In my opinion, if I had to rank them, I think I ranked them in the last stream. It goes Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh. And Slaanesh is so far down. Do you agree that the End Times was drunk? Absolutely ass-hammered. It was drunk off of like Rumplemints, which is just a fucking minty flavored schnapps. Ginger of Doom asked, how does the High Elf lore compare to Eldar lore in terms of their gods and creation story? But it's funny that you ask, yeah, Ginger of Doom. The Eldar have the same, if not similar, what's it called? Gods. Their creation story is different. The Eldar creation story happens with the war in heaven. The old ones create the Eldar as a result of needing to fight the Necrons, because they needed someone pretty much to like run and inherit their everything. Whereas the Lizardmen are like that for fantasy, right? Lizardmen are created in the old one's direct image. They look like lizards. Little Slann are created in the Lizardmen in the old one's image. Where the fuck is the Eldari book? Oh, it's called Craftworld now. And you're looking for the word Eldar. So you get this history here in the Eldar book, and honestly, the Eldar are a really, really, really interesting portion of. This is exactly what I was looking for. Interesting portion of the 40k lore. They're really, really cool. I really enjoy them actually. So the murdered pantheon. At the moment of its birth, Slaanesh decimated the Eldari pantheon and stole the god's power, with only 2 of their numbers surviving the fall. The laughing god Segorosh escaped through guile, while Kalamentia Kane, the strongest and most warlike of the Eldari deities, endured through might. Slaanesh and the bloody-handed god fought a titanic battle in the warp, and despite Kane's mastery of war, Slaanesh, glutted with stolen power, eventually proved the stronger. Exhausted from the struggle, Slaanesh could not destroy the Eldari god completely. Instead, Kane was rent into fragments. Each shard came to rest within the wraithbone core of a craft world, where it took root and grew into an avatar of the bloody-handed god. To this day, these murderous avatars of Kane are still awoken to lead the Assyriani to war. And now we have the Eldar god of death coming back in with Dryrain and the Aeneid and everything like that. So we're starting to see more of that Eldar pantheon come back a little bit. Let me scroll up. Do you agree that the end times? Yeah, I already got that. What about the old ones and chaos gods? Who created them? The chaos gods were strengthened by the creation of the races by the old ones. We don't know who created the old ones. The old ones were here a long time. We don't know if the old ones created the webway, or if the webway was created even before the old ones. But the old ones used the webway before emotional creatures, I guess, like humans, humans, Eldar, and Krork, which were the precursors to orcs, were created. The warp was pretty mellow. They would come in and out of the warp, no big deal. You could fly it. They would fly from one point in the galaxy to the next without an issue. But when all these races were created, their emotions were created. The emotions gave power to the nascent chaos gods. And the chaos gods themselves are not like, yep, we're going to have a vote. We're going to appoint Hector, the chaos god, to godship. Like, no. These were just the strongest chaos entities in the warp, and the oldest ones. And they just kind of rose to prominence over time. So basically, the chaos gods are really no different than just a super strong demon. Grom's Chariot and Snotling Pumpwagon is in the data files, so let's hope he does arrive soon. If they were to do a Greenskin DLC, the Snotling Pumpwagon and the Ballista, the Spear Chukka, are like the only 2 things missing from that roster, really. There's not a lot missing. What is missing are... Where'd this come from? We'll put that over there. What is missing are variants. You can have Black Orcs with a bunch of different weapons. You can have Orc Boys with a bunch of different weapons. So I would like to see a Greenskin DLC expand on the variants of current existing units. That would add so much more variety if you could have Black Orcs with swords and shields. Like, that'd be huge. Or with spears. In my opinion, if Empire doesn't get fleshed out with an update in 2, I hope they get a big one in Warhammer 3. One of my top 5 favorite factions, so much potential there. Cypherus, I think we'll see something, man. I mean, if they're showing that FLC array, and in that FLC DLC array, they're putting old world update, they're trying, like I was saying in that video, they're trying to create the story of how their updates are going to go for Warhammer 2. They're saying, okay, yeah, you're going to get content, you're going to get an FLC Lord, you're going to get an old world update with each one of our DLC drops. So I think it stands to believe that we'll probably have, realistically, 4 more DLCs if there's 4 old world factions that need redoing. I'm again working under the assumption that Warriors of Chaos will get revamped in Warhammer 3, and I don't really think Norskin needs that much of a revamp. Maybe like a slight facelift, if anything. That can be hashed together with the last one. What do I think will be the possible DLCs for Total War Warhammer 3? I don't know, dude. Dogs of War is the only thing I can think of as far as a race pack goes. Aside from Nippon, Ind, and Cathay, but we've already kind of established that I don't think we'll do that. They could do something with Sky Titans. They could do something with all the many different tribes of Marauders. Norskins, I guess you could say. But you've got the Hmong, a bunch of different tribes over in those regions. They could do some DLCs with those. That'd probably be the only other race packs you could offer, though, to be honest. What about Malbot or the Red Duke? What about him? Go down a bit. There's a spider on my window. Can you kill it, please? Abso-fucking-lutely not. I was watching, like, the last episode of Stranger Things the other day, and a spider crawled across my blanket that was mere inches from my very nose. I freaked the fuck out. I, like, threw my blanket up, got up, did one of those, like, slap every part of your bodies thing, and, like, shook the blanket. Like, I couldn't find the spider. It's probably somewhere in my butt. I don't even know it. Like, I'm terrified of that shit. It was huge, too. By Southern California standards. I don't live in Australia, where, like, the spiders are this big. Does Luther Harkin have any books? He plays parts in books that take place in the old world. One of the Burning Shore series has got a bit of him in it, and it's more about Noctilus than it is Luther Harkin. But there's a lot of stuff in the End Times about Luther Harkin, because Luther Harkin is the Mortarch of the Sea or something like that, and Nagash has him go and attack all of the navy of the Tomb Kings, and just fucking totals them, just destroys it. Michaela K said, Michaela, right? Not Michaela? You're a girl, right? Isn't Nurgle both strongest and weakest of the 4 Chaos Gods? During good times, he is super weak, but if things go tits up, he boosts even over Khorne in power. Yeah, that's actually, like, verbatim from the book. So do you think Iron Man can be turned into a more Cypher-like character in exchange for a cure for his Rubik Marine? What do you mean by a Cypher-like character? Like someone who's kind of presently always in and out of the lore and has a neutral stance to everything? Did they retcon out Aisha? No, they retconned her being the mother of all elves. Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Glad to hear that, Ginger of Doom. Fulgrim's a really... It's a kind of a testy book, but it ends very well. I think to see that the ultimate character of Fulgrim and how it culminates by the very end, and I'm not going to ruin it for you, is really strong. Indie Pride and I were talking about this. We really hate how in that book it's like, oh yeah, the Emperor's children are so perfect. They just use their perfect, their perfect hands on everything. Oh, this perfect statue's got a perfect body with this perfect dick. Like, that's just too much for me. I get it. They pursue perfection. What do you think the Terminus Decree is? Basically, it's a piece of paper in a box that can only be opened at the end times for the commander of the Grey Knights. Jammin, I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know. It's probably like, and I'm just being a shithead here, it's probably like a Grey Knight's Optimus Prime. Like Autobots, now I know you need me. Like, it's gonna be some bullshit like that. Like, every single chapter, every single book, every single chapter, every single everything in Warhammer 40k and fantasy has a during the end times, for the end times, in the end times, or if it's Space Wolves, for the wolf times. Like something that will occur when shit goes tits up. So who knows? It's just one of those, like, Well, we really can pull out some big deal shit if we want to. There are a couple Sky Titans left, Crisps. Of a minor Ragnarok. Yes. What would you say would be the key mechanics that would be needed in Warhammer 3 for the Ogre Kingdoms, vomit in your own mouth, to be done well or unique? Did you watch Draken? Did you watch my video on Ogre Kingdoms? Because I'm about to rehash that if you didn't, because I had a concept for that. I guess they didn't retcon Aisha out of 40k, but remember she's killed, so is Vol and everything like that. But she's still part of 40k. I think maybe I confused the question. Yes, she's in 40k. Yes, she was the mother of Eldar. I mean, in fantasy they retconned Aisha and Lilith a bunch of times over and over. Okay, let me see if Draken responded here. Yes, a while ago, though. Okay, so what I think they need to do is play upon the fact that the Ogre Kingdoms, they have a heavy drive for food, right? Like, they're always eating shit and stuff like that. So I think what would be interesting is if they had an ability where if they get to a certain percentage or threshold of health, they stop eating and they start eating. Wait, they stop fighting and they start eating. Like, they bend over and just start eating things. So let's just say they get to 15% health. Well, they'll recover back up to 35%, but they'll be in a basically like a rampage-like mechanic, recovering health as they kill and eat stuff, but you can't control them. And once they get back to 35%, you can control them again until they die. That I think would be really cool. Or like a stance called Mercenary, wherein you gain money, you go and place these guys in another faction's territory, and you have to be not at war with that faction. And it's a stance called Mercenary. And if you pop into the Mercenary stance, because ogres are known far and wide as being mercenaries, you get money, but suffer attrition. So you get more money than you would as if you were raiding to add another income revenue to your revenue stream, but you suffer attrition, so your army actually loses strength, represented going out and fighting and taking wounds and casualties. That's what I think, two real big cool ways that I've kind of thought about. Oh, and they also definitely need to like overhaul charging and the way that works, because it can't just be simply they have a massive charge bonus. They're half of the reason why ogres were so scary in tabletop is because their charges would just decimate a unit. I would have ogres charging my high elves and fucking kill like the whole unit before I could do anything. I'm like, son of a bitch! The Terminus Decree is clearly Kaldor Drago. Yeah, that's not wrong. Okay, so what Nerdicles was saying, that when I said, what does Cypher-esque mean? He's saying more neutral, not quite sure where he is going, but get the feeling wherever he wants is probably for the best or worse, depending on who writes him. I think Cypher ultimately knows what he's doing, and I think Ironman, even if he was able to reverse the rubric, I think he would still try to control Thousand Suns, because he's so like removed from the equations of like everything else that seems to be his primary focus. Then after he did that, I think he would want to kind of keep them together. Why are the Emperor's Children the best Legion? Why are you excited about the Fulcrum clone being the next Primarch to return? My dad owns Games Workshop, so believe me. Fuck you, man. Oh, Pingu Pog, I forgot about that. So they're in Nurgle's garden. There's like this woman who's like trapped in one of his things, in one of his basically like a basement next to like a big old pot of poxes, and he's like always crying and stuff like that, and that's rumored to be Aisha. I forgot about that. You're right. Jammin said, thank you for all your amazing videos. They are very well done and of a high caliber, especially your Primarch series. in your recent Calgar video. Greetings from Ireland. Oh, top of the morning to you then, man. Thank you very much for watching, brother. I really appreciate it, dude. What do you think of Free People finally getting a book in Age of Sigmar? I think it's badass. I'm really excited to see it, Dr. Z. Yeah, Pox Fulcrum, that's it. Yeah, that's the big rumor, is that Aisha is Pox Fulcrum, which is basically like, oh, there's a new... Because Aisha is like the goddess of life and everything like that, so okay, well, Nurgle isn't the god of death, he's the god of the cycle. Like, with birth comes death, with birth comes death. Like, that whole... with growth comes decay. And that's why Nurgle's garden is this big, huge garden that is constantly decaying and growing and expanding. And it has carnivorous plants and non-carnivorous plants. Like, that's why he's grandfather Nurgle, Papa Nurgle, because he's all about, like, the growth of things that also must subsequently lead to their death. And it's like Aisha is kind of the goddess of life, so... making all them fat poxes and herpes. You getting emails from Google? Have you tried this on your OK Google? Like, no, I have not asked Google to order me pizza. I'm not, oh god damn it, it's popped up. I cannot order you a pizza, Dave. Mortarion versus Typhus, who would win? Mortarion, hands down. Alright guys, we got 4 more minutes. I'm going to end the stream just a little bit earlier, not at the full 2 hours. That way we can give it all the time it needs to render and process, and it will go up without an issue. Any more 40k, any more fantasy questions? I am here for the next 4 minutes. I don't know if sometimes I'm not. Oh, I just got the standing desk, right? And I don't know if, like, you guys can hear me back here, so I keep going like, yeah, so you want to talk to me, and I think this is now too close. What is Karn doing at the moment in 40k? Is he on Vigilus? Ooh, I don't remember. I don't think he's on Vigilus. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not. Like, that's all like Black Legion. What do you think will trigger the end times in 40k? A specific Primarch returning, a new Hive Fleet, Necron Dynasty reawakening? I don't think the end times will ever occur, Ginger of Doom. I think they'll always just kind of like continue to tease it, but they'll continue the narrative. I think 40k ends times will come when Games Workshop has to close its doors, because when people think Games Workshop, they think Space Marines, they think 40k. Do you think that it's possible that humanity from the past or tech beings reside within the veiled regions? Oh, absolutely. Pocket empires definitely exist. They still exist now. If I were to be immortalized in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, or Warhammer universe, would you prefer to be in the 40k or fantasy as a character? 40k, hands down. Hands down! Absolutely, Draken. Thank you for joining me, man. Y'all take care. You too, Cypherus. Thanks for joining in, brother. Who's the worst Primarch, and why is it Perturabo? Answered my question for me. Guy has no fucking cool lore. No one does anything with Perturabo. He just sits there and screeches every time Rogel Dorn does anything. I just... like, he's got such cool potential to be an awesome character, and they don't do anything with him. What is the likelihood that we'll ever see anything from the Lost Legions? I think that we might get something during the Siege of Terra. I bet you that, like, Horus will be like, but why, father? And, like, screech at him and say, like, what the fuck? What about, you know, Javier and Spencer, Primarchs number 11 and 20, like, or 19 or whatever the 2 lost ones were. Like, what about them? What about them? Like, I bet you that'll happen. I bet you we'll get way more into the light of those, because I think it's such a desired thing. I understand that Games Workshop wants to create this narrative that, like the Blood Ravens are from some founding of Primarchs they don't know. It could be the it could be Magnus, it could be Lion, but like, I get that they want to create that, and they want people to have the ability to make their own legion. But people are going to do it regardless, even if you don't give them a Lost and the Damned to kind of say that they're, oh yeah, my legion's Lost and Damned. Well, maybe I want to make my own Loyalist legion, and if it's already a corrupt one, then I can't by the rule you've kind of set out. So just fill the gaps. tell us the narrative of who they are, and I can say that they're like this. Like, create something around it. Like, just get rid of the mystery at this point. That's what I like about 8th edition now, is they're starting to peel back the veil of all this mystery behind the Primarchs, and we get to hear who they are now for the very first time. And in the 20 years I've been doing this, okay, I started reading Horus Heresy books back in, like 2007, 6? Around when the first ones came out. But before that, you didn't know who the Primarchs really were. You just knew, oh, he was so courageous. So do you think those races or empires will be introduced as playable races? I don't think so. I think they'll just be talked about. The man in the desert. Absolutely, dude. Thank you for stopping in, my man. What do you think the new next 40k race will be? Oof. I do not know. They've been coming up with some pretty weird things. Maybe Iron Men? Or maybe a Pocket Empire. That'd be pretty cool. The Vengeful Spirit got crippled by some missiles over Vigilus. Wouldn't Void Shields protect it? Axe Power 4. The Vengeful Spirit wasn't crippled by missiles. It was crippled by Eldar ships running into it 100%. And smashing into it. Why collect Trazian, the Infinite All Character Armies? What's his goal? Just wants to collect interesting characters throughout all of history. I know I said I was going to do a video on Ursarkar Creed, and I'm still going to, but Ursarkar Creed gets captured by Trazian, and he's like, yeah, you're a pretty cool, interesting part of. You're the most famous Cadian general of all time. I'm going to capture you. You're going to be in my tank. There's a rumor that there's a Primarch. He's got a Primarch in his hall. Who is the Malcador of fantasy? It's unfair to say Croak, but I'd say Teclis. Later, Nerdcles. Thanks for Dr. Z. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end our stream here today because if it goes over 2 hours, then YouTube has a hard time like processing it and allowing me to put it back up on the channel. It took like 3-4 days last time. So thank you so much for watching here today. I'm going to go ahead and roll the credits. We didn't get any donations, so no one to thank on that. But thank you to all the people who subscribed. Sifris, I see you just subscribed, so welcome aboard, brother. Do you think Ra will have a role in the current lore at some point? Abaddon as the Emperor's savior is a favorite theory of mine. Ra isn't the sun god? I gotta do this. There we go. Oh, the Emperor. Oh, Ra and Demian. Okay, yeah. I was like, what do you mean? I'm fucking back? Yeah, okay. Do you think Ra will have a role in the current lore at some point? Do you know what happened to Ra, Crumpus Panda? Yeah, I mean, he's stuck in Drachnian. Maybe he will, like, maybe there'll become a point when, like, maybe the Emperor has seen Drachnian come, like, all the way through to where it is, right, with Horus. Or, I'm sorry, with Abaddon, and maybe that's the ultimate role, is like, hey, you need to be the thing that cracks Drachnian at the critical moment. Like, maybe Horus, Abaddon goes to, like, swipe down the Emperor at the Golden Throne, and he does it, kills the Emperor is reborn, but Drachnian explodes because Ra, like, detonates it or something like that. Morgiana is not... Yeah, she's a representative of the Fey Enchantress, but she is not blessed by the Fey Enchanting. Like that. Damn right they do, Dacklemore. You missed the fucking stream, Joshua. Son of a bitch. Calidor the Conqueror, Imladric, and Prince Imric. Love Imric. Love Calidor the Conqueror. Love Imladric. Hate Calidor the Second. Yeah, I agree so with you, Crumpets. I kind of like, I was like, what? Raw? No! the schedule of the next one. Probably do another one next Saturday. I have to see what day it is. But I should be doing one next Saturday. Thanks, Chloe. Thanks for dropping in. I'm a chaplain. I'll buy a shirt. I have plenty of shirts. Plenty of a wide variety of far-ranging ones. Stephen Carpenter, did you just sign up on the Patreon, dude? Is that you? Well, thank you very much, man. Welcome to the family. And let me know if you got an invite to the Discord, right? Sure, Josh, go for it, man. Ask away, brother. I got time for just yours. Just in case it didn't send you an invite to the Discord, there you go. Get on that Discord, and then once you do, I will set your title appropriately. Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Sometimes it doesn't do it, and it pisses me off. Just for a memorable first stream, and keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Ginger. I appreciate it, brother. What happened to the Book of Magnus? Doesn't... What's his name have it? Ironman? I believe Ironman has it or Magnus has it. I can't remember. Someone has it. Alright, guys. We are going to go ahead and conclude things here today. But, as always, thank you so much for watching. Plenty more lore coming your way. I'm going to do a lore on the Blood Ravens. That's the reason I've got that book over there. Will your new spaceship be equipped with warp? I'm going to build another one soon again. I need to swap out my motherboard. My motherboard is shite. The physical blade, like they ever clean that part of the Aisha. Kind of, but not imbued with all of Aisha's abilities. End times happened. Alright, guys. Thanks so much for watching here today. Look forward to a lot more lore coming my way. But as always, have a good one and take care.